You're listening to Life Check Yourself with life coach, transformational leader, and dating and relationship badass, Marni Batista. Every week, you'll get the raw truth from top experts and real people on the important life and love issues you want to know about. So if you're ready to life check yourself in your relationships, your career, and the areas of your life that matter most to you, and you're not afraid to be called out on your, stuff, then you're ready for what's next.
Life Check Yourself with Chris Gillis. Is there such a thing as too much honesty? Ladies, welcome to Life Check Yourself. I am super excited. I was looking forward to this all week because it's time for me to get cozy and get clarity with my favorite man panelist, Mr. Chris Gillis. We need that little clapping thing that Craig Shimay has. Craig Shimay is our director at our live events, and his friend, you weren't part of this part of it, but at our Ignite Your Life 3-day virtual event that we just had, Craig is our host also, and he plays these games. And so he was playing like a trivia game with our audience, and one of the answers, Chris, was Craigsley Kardashian.
Is what?
Was Craigsley Kardashian. So the whole weekend I was calling Craig Craigsley.
Is Craig's single, right?
He is single, and he was listening to the man panel, and he was saying that he is a hunter to maybe quality casual, but definitely not ready for a relationship.
I was going to ask, my next question do you think he is going to find love, or these ladies are going to find him, pin him down, and they're going to be all clear and, juicy.
Yeah, I think there's and this is an interesting thing to just talk about, because we talked about, before we dive into our Bachelor, we're going to talk a little bit about what happened at our man panel. So on the Saturday evening of our 3-day retreat event, we bring in 5 really quality guys, and the women get to ask questions and kind of hear what men really think. And so one of the things was how do you know when a guy is ready to commit? And I think that when a guy is in manvolution, sort of going through that phase of hunter to quality casual, or maybe he's a crybaby and he's got issues, whatever it is, right? Till he becomes, if he becomes a real man. I think that there are points along manvolution where someone can just decide they're not really willing to do the work. They don't become conscious. They don't wake up. They just stay stuck. And so I was just wondering, because I think a lot of ladies who listen, fall in love with the potential of somebody, and all the guys on the panel talked about their moment, right? Where they were I'm in a lot of pain. I need to change. So do you think there are men who just stay stuck at a certain level because they don't want to really do the work, or they're just not aware?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I think there are a lot of men who, and women who stay stuck because it's good enough, and they're so incredibly they're so, it's for the hunters, for example, they're so incredibly good at hunting, and the pond is constantly restocked, especially these guys who live in big cities where they can just keep being jerks over and over and over.
Yeah, they keep reinventing themselves because there's always low-hanging fruit.
Now, are they happy? No, absolutely. And they become more happy and more, or they become even more angry and salty, and it gets harder and harder, and it'll end up kind of walking away from the pack. And I've got several good friends who are just amazing Lotharios and Casanovas, and now we're not even friends because they just become fucking assholes. and they'll say the way they are with women is the way they are with everybody, right? To the point dude, I don't like you anymore, and I don't find that endearing at all. And they don't evolve. That's sad.
Yeah, it is so sad. And so, I think, and that's kind of what can happen, is that if you never want to look at your stuff, and women do this too, right? There's always, and I talked about this yesterday, and I can't remember what the context was, but we were talking about how we're always waiting for a situation or condition to change. Mm-hmm. And that is always like 10 yards down the field. Like, mm-hmm. Oh, well, let me wait till I get this new job, or let me wait till this, like, I find out if I'm going to get an investor in my business, or let me wait until like my parents are really ill. Like, let me just wait until, they pass away. Right. And so even if you're aware and you just have this knowing, because you don't want to do the work, you're turning away from it. And I think the universe or the world will always give you a condition that you could put as the reason why you don't actually evolve yourself.
Totally. Question for you. Have you had any clients and or friends or people you care about who come with you over and over again with the same, the same situation, the same things they're sticking with, their sticking points, and no matter how much you try, with coaching and listening and what you realize, they are just, and as much as they actually enjoy caring about it, and it's just a thing that they do, and they just get right back to their bad patterns, so that you have to break up with them, block their numbers, whatever.
Well, I think, it's interesting because we've had people will always ask us, like, will it work for me, or does it work? And I always say, like, if you do the work, there's no way it can't work. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, we have data that shows that it works, right? Yeah. Like, but what happens is when someone comes in and they're super resistant and they believe that their way is the better way, or what they believe is what I call terminal uniqueness. Like, that might work for everyone else, but you don't.
Uniqueness.
You don't know me and my situation. I'm really this, or I'm really that, or I'm too good for this, and it's like, I always say, like, I'm not going to work harder than you, right? So I'm going to encourage you, and I'm going to encourage you. But what's interesting is because we're really good at setting boundaries as an organization, and because we don't work harder than our clients, mm-hmm. Then we're like, okay, well, you do it your way, but we can't guarantee or stand behind your result. And what's really great is that we have had a handful of ladies who come back like a year or two later, and they're like, yeah, I was really stuck. And they went and they did whatever they had to do. And they come back and they're like super ready. And then they do great things. And I think that one of the things that I'm really looking at in my life is I don't want to judge or control. So I'm remembering on a daily basis that I want to allow the soul of other people to have the journey it is meant to have. And I think when you're dating someone and you're like, oh, I wish they would change, or they have so much potential, or whatever it is, or you want them to call you, or you want that one guy that you like to like hit you up. And this was on the Man Panel. I think Matt Coe said it's like, you don't own him. Like, you don't own him. You're not responsible for his life journey. Like, you like him. You had 5 text messages with him, even went out on a date, right? Like, his soul is having his soul's journey. Yeah. And like, get out of your ego and stop making it all about you, and really look at, like, what is this here for me? Why is this conspiring for me to go to the next level? Because otherwise you can we talked at the event about, like, and women were like really resonating with this. And I think this goes on all the time in our favorite show, The Bachelor, is, we call it like rage, blame, become too tired to deal with it, or too busy.
Rage, blame, become too tired to deal with it, or busy. What do you mean by that?
So what I mean by that is that, like, if you have a beef with someone, and you get really pissed at them, or you get really pissed at yourself because you allowed it to happen. Mm-hmm. You blame them, or you blame yourself, right? So you're like, this sucks, like that Elizabeth on the show right now, right? She's like so mad, right? She's so mad that Shanae is like,
oh yeah,
wreaking havoc, making her, villainizing her, right? And she's so mad, and she's so mad at her, and she's so mad at everything. And then she's so mad at herself, right? For like allowing this to happen and finding blame, right? And so we get all in that. And then now she's like completely not present for what's going on around her, for Clayton or for anything else, right? But what happens in real life is because you're not in that little container, often because then your life folds back in and you just get too tired to deal with it. You're like, why bother?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, you know what? That was like last week. I'm not, it's fine now. Or we get so busy in our life that it's a great way to avoid what's really going on in the situation. And so I think that we do that with people we're in relationships with. When we're dating, it turns into like rage, blame yourself, blame online dating. I can't deal with it. I'm too tired. I'm too busy to do that. And it's a giant avoidance cycle, right? From your own evolution, from your own learning. So I think the mandate is like, when shit's going down, like take responsibility and look at it.
Got it.
Like in the moment, right?
That makes sense. With the man panel, so the ladies listening who weren't there, she brings us on, and the ladies are allowed to ask us. They have questions, and we have to answer honestly and truthfully. But then we get kicked out of the room. And Marni, was there any any new? Because people are, I don't know, I assume they're changing, or technology's changing, or how the people are dating are changing. Were there any new evolutions to our interactions with them, or overall even throughout the whole entire weekend? Or you're like, holy shit, this is now an issue, or holy shit, this isn't an issue like it is?
Oh yeah, no, I think that here's what's incredible is, and somebody, I went and checked something on Facebook yesterday, and someone brought up a memory in their Facebook memories of an Ignite Your Life they went to in like 2014 live. And she met the man of her dreams right after that event. And they've been married now for like, I don't know how many years, 6-7 years. And she was like, that was where my journey began. And I was like, that's so cool. Right. Yeah. And so anyway, I was thinking about it. The questions are the same.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, the questions are the same. How do I get a guy to pursue me? What makes a woman the one? Why do you stop your wildly ways and want to commit? Why do men ghost? Why do they disappear? Why don't they text back? Right? Don't you get the same questions every time you sit on the panel, right?
Yeah. I didn't get as many. I noticed there weren't as many women. Maybe you're doing a better job cutting them off at the beginning, but I didn't get as many of I can't find. I'm too successful. Men are intimidated by me. There didn't seem women who were believing their own bullshit. That's why. Yeah, that's why they can't get. They were kind of like we said a second ago. How I'm so busy. I'm too busy. Blaming it on work that they put voluntarily go to every day happily and then proudly hang their ego on it. There seemed to be the women. Yeah, I think more open and honest with themselves. Then they weren't as disillusioned or confused as they were last time.
Yeah, well, that's really interesting. Every time we do an event, there's an ethos of the group. Mm-hmm. And this women, so if you're one of those amazing 100 or so women that were on the event with us, bless all of you. These were some really conscious, self-aware, amazing women. And I think that, and maybe this is an evolution, I don't know, but I think the bigger questions are what's coming up for people. And that was what we really noticed was that, and I think it's partly because of the pandemic. I think it's partly because of just, I think, an increase in consciousness overall, but it's they're looking at this missing part of my life is a result of the numbness and the deadness that I feel inside.
Oh, really?
You know what I mean? I feel like one woman said, I feel like I've had ice around my heart for years, right? And she said the weekend was there was starting to be some melting, and I'm so excited because we get to work with her for a year. But that's sort of the sense of I've numbed myself, I've guarded myself. And I think the other thing, which is really true, and I'd love for you to talk about this, is that a lot of the ladies that listen to this show or come, they're they've done a lot of work, but the thing that we were talking about at the event was that it's not translating into a tangible result. right? You can connect the dots and be like, oh, I know where this came, or I know that I have a guard up, or I know that, I react from my past. Right? And you can know all that shit. But like, if you can't like change your neural programming, if you can't do something different, then like your life, you'll have more awareness, but you won't wake up in the morning to like a different pair of glasses. Like, you gotta like destroy the rose colored glasses, and like you actually want to have something that looks and feels different. So I don't know what you think about that.
No, yeah, I mean, that was really a question, but I did notice, that the awareness seemed to be a lot higher, and the gals seem to be even I love how you don't let us dum-dums get into the chat, all those guys.
I know.
But I was, of course, I was bored, or not bored, of listening and seeing what they're talking about. And there were the level of communication was higher. The awareness level was higher. And the gals seemed to be getting it, at least they knew what they were working with. I got the sense that and where they were at, and they were more honest because I've been doing this for years and years now. So I could imagine if you were able to turn, that was, you said 7 years ago, whatever, last time when that lady married somebody. So I bet you're going to get a few more of those success stories.
Oh yeah. It's so fun. And we had a whole lot of ladies. We did this event virtually in 2021. Last January, and it's fun because a lot of those ladies who did end up working with us were coming to the end of the year, and it was just like the exact same weekend a year ago that they started their year-long journey with us. And so there was just, at the same time that all of this was going on, people were posting their like success stories in our private community. And so it was like, here I am with my guy, or, when I started this program, I had these goals, like fall in love with myself, feel confident, increase my business, meet a guy. And like, I'm happy to say I did all, and so, it's like, and I think that's really the thing is that, and we look at this silly show that we love to talk about. It's like, those women, right, are at this point in their life, they're young, right? Like from where I sit, they're in their 20s. Most of them are maybe like in their early 30s or late 20s. And that's the great, like, I think, like, look in the mirror. We can mock them and we can look at them, and we'll talk about the forced therapy session that happened in this episode. But it's like, it doesn't, your shit's going to happen, and it's going to line up, and the dominoes are going to keep following in that way. And it's like, if these ladies don't do something now, it's not like fame or whatever it is going to change it. And one of our clients is Stella, won The Bachelor season 4, right, in her 20s. And she comes up, our way 20 years later and ultimately finds love. Right. And it's like, if you don't change the one thing you can change, which is yourself and your neural wiring, and translate into result, that shit show that is the show, it's just magnified because they make the characters say all the things that are in between their ears most people never say out loud. It doesn't end, right? And so I think the great thing is to just look and say, like, hey, let me see which of these patterns do I resonate with. Not to be ashamed or beat yourself up, to be like, oh, thank God, because what I reveal, I can heal and change.
With kind of adding on what we were talking about earlier, because I've had to, friendship break up because I care so deeply about relationships. Obviously, I love doing this with you, and I find it so fascinating, and something I thrive on connection, and it's not. I definitely didn't grow up with good examples of how to do that. So here I am, discovering and still learning and being so passionate about getting better at it. And I asked you if you've had clients you've had to break up with, and I've had like gal pals I've had to break up with because it hurt me to see them. They are like The Bachelor. But they're like fucking every season. They're on there over and over,
right?
And just heartbroken, and they're the villain over and they. And they just don't want to get there. They say they do, but they can't. They can't get there, and it's just so hard to watch. But you were just mentioning about how, you were saying, you're bound to repeat it over and over again. And, and I think that is, and that's what is, like I alluded to, especially these people who live in, Los Angeles. They're just kind of a make believe. in itself, and they're able to continue to they keep repeating it over and over and over again. And you're right. Just like you said, they like the gal on The Bachelor. She could have fame. She could have these. It's almost harder because, especially for these people who, like my friends, I'm thinking, they have it all. They get too many. They get too many opportunities.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they get too many because of the way they look, or how charismatic they are, or their jobs, or whatever, and it almost like hurts them versus the ability to come and have that humbleness to face that. So I guess my question is how can you, without shaming, without if any gals are listening to this and you feel like, Chris, I guess that is kind of ring true. How can somebody come to that place of saying, you know what, without saying I'm broken, but with saying, hey, it's not working, because I feel like so many, the people I've tried to help, their egos just won't let them get to the point, like, I'm fine. It's everybody constantly pointing fingers at every fucking piece of shit in LA, all the guys are dicks, or all the girls are like, what? No, I don't think so. So how can a person reconcile with that truth without beating themselves up, and let their ego still have the strength to go on this voyage of self-discovery and improvement?
I think it's not about being broken. I think the thing to look at, and we talked about this a lot on the weekend, is when you are in your patterns, it's like you have all these knots, entanglements, right? Like that are like, Jeremy got me this beautiful necklace for the holidays, and it's really pretty, and it's got this long kind of drop thing, and it keeps getting tangled, right? And these little knots, like a chain, right? So we have to keep, and I love the metaphor, because like when it gets tangled, I just put it on my sink and he untangles it, and it's so sweet. But the thing is like we have all these knots, right? Those chains, right? That are in little knots, and you have to get the tweezers, and you have to pull it apart. And that is life, just by me wearing it, right? I'm not doing it. It'll just get knots. And so it's really about untangling these knots, because the knots are preventing you from fully just expressing who you are in your fullest self. It's not that you're broken. It's that your amazingness is just covered in all of these misunderstandings and limiting beliefs and narratives and thinking you're not enough and thinking you're flawed or blaming. All these things we talk about, they're just layers that have to be untangled, right? Yeah. So that you can have an evolution and expression of who you really are. So it's not that you're broken, it's that you need freedom. Mm-hmm. So don't you want to be free free to be you and me, right? Free to be who you really are. So that's sort of my shtick. But let me ask you a question. Yeah. Let's talk about the freaking sigh. That was like, I was literally dying when I was watching the forced therapy session. Oh, yeah. So in the episode, I don't know. You describe it. What happens? What's the setup?
Well, first of all, these non-creative motherfuckers took the same cringy circle of trust, and they stuck a very Caitlin Bristol, I don't think is a psychologist or has any professional training, and put everybody in a giant vulnerability circle and discuss what was the question, Marni? You're always good at remembering the exact wording. Was it things you're ashamed of or not?
Yeah, something like something that you're not proud of about yourself.
Absolutely. And so everybody goes, because and I think there's beautiful takeaways that I guess of being vulnerable that can happen, but I don't think it's not. I don't know. I find it's not healthy. It doesn't seem, and to be forced. These girls, they're barely getting to know themselves. We don't even know their names yet.
I know.
They're having to spill their most, the saddest things, and it's just a dark and somber. It's a weird date, first of all. Who wants to go?
Yeah. Who wants to go on that date? But I think that's such a huge thing. So it's funny because the question was like, what are the parts you don't like about yourself, or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Or parts you regret. And I was sitting there thinking, and I was like, how would I answer that question? Because what was interesting was what they did is they talked about their like shame, basically, and I was like, when I think like I don't like those things about myself, it's almost like it's a trick question. Setting it up that way is you're setting yourself up to think you're broken, right? Like, what's wrong? Like, if you say to someone, what's wrong with you?
Sure.
That's like, no, it's like, what are you working on? What are the things that have happened to you that have made you doubt yourself, right? Like, so first of all, it's like, so this is a lesson for the listeners. Reframe the question. It's not what's wrong with you or what part of you do you not like. It's like, what are the woundings that have happened that are keeping you from expressing yourself? Like, where do you feel stuck? What are the traumatic moments that you can't get past?
Yeah, and it's. I think it's evident that it was such a question that they weren't qualified to give, and that the fact that the majority of them answered it, they used parts literally to mean nouns, and they just described their bodies. That's the last thing I would think they're assume that they're discussing parts. I wouldn't guess parts like my knees, my hair, my
it was so odd.
I again. Because of introspection and where I assume that's what it was, but then they all took that answer as well. But we have Marni, but what they didn't do, and what you've talked about in a past episode of our podcast, is that it wasn't it was framed as, or they answered it as, this person hurt me, and I was really hurt, and here I am, versus versus what you just mentioned, is that, hey, I had this really tough lesson, I experienced it, and this is what I learned, and this is what I grew out of it, and God damn it, glad that's over, but good Lord, I sure did learn a lot from it, and I didn't get any of that from there, which would have been really attractive. There's just a lot of crying and sadness.
Yeah, well, it was like a lot of like body shaming and like eating disorder stuff, and a lot of that, and what's interesting, and this is what I want to talk about too, is we talk about like oversharing on dates, and it's like and I had a client who ended up like not working with, because she's not really ready for what we do, really, but there was a lot of wounding about like, this is what's wrong with me, this is a lot of like bleh, right, like these are my issues, bleh. It's a lot, right? So the question is, when do you reveal some of these deeper things? And I think in the context of this game, and I always like to say, what are the rules of this world? Because these are not the rules necessarily, or the context of like the real world. But in this world of this show, like, you just need to, they make vulnerability mean like, show your insecurities.
Yeah.
And I just don't, and you do that, the sooner you do that, the more someone's going to fall in love with you, which I don't think that's the way it goes. What's the difference in your mind between vulnerability and insecurity?
Yeah, you're right. That isn't, insecurity is nauseous. It's something, it's repellent, where I think a vulnerability, when expressed in the right way, it's attractive, and it's powerful, and it's strong, and it's sexy. When it's described out the way that you discuss how to share vulnerabilities.
Yeah, and so vulnerability is something that you share when you're not sure how it's going to land, and it comes from a place of like a feeling, not a condition. And I think in this, you call it the trust circle, I call it the forced. I don't even know. It's kind of emotionally abusive, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, let's put you in an unsafe container with a bunch of cameras and make you share your like inner demon.
Kristen Bristow, Caitlin Bristow.
Yeah, like, oh my God. They're like, the inner contract, they found a loophole. We can't get rid of her. She has to be able to show up for one thing. But it was just like, and I think that's not vulnerability. Like, and I don't think you share those kinds of things on a first date at all. You need context, right? And so you have to know somebody. And so like the vulnerability is, it scares me to fall for you, right? Because I feel open and exposed, and that feels so scary. And also like, I'm excited about it. Not like, so because I had a boyfriend who was abusive and made me feel like shit, and now I don't trust people, I feel like I'm falling for you, but that's really scary because honestly, I think I'm not enough. Okay,
Yeah.
do you see the difference, people? Right?
100%. Dr. Emily's mom, she thinks different, and she's always surprising me with the insights she has. And her insight was like, none of these, that basically what I was saying is like, they answered it as if they would fall into the same hole again, meaning they didn't have that hero's journey takeaway, that life. And that's what I, there wasn't a ... And that's what I learned. That I was doing this and this and this, and I would never do that again to myself because I love myself again, or I would never, but instead it ended with, like I said, that the real villains were these girls' nasty exes versus and that's where all the blame, that's where all the focus, all the energy went on. I felt like it's like all that, and then poor broken me, and then it really it seemed to bring up, you said, open up those traumas they were living, and it showed again. That's what's scary. That's what we talk about. That's what's scary when you're dating someone, when they open up a vulnerability versus insecurity. If it still looks like the wound is weeping and oozing, then that's like, that's an insecurity. That's like, oh shit, this person's still healing to do. And wonder
that's so huge. That's so huge because when you share something that's still in process, it's not necessarily a vulnerability. And that's like when you're on a date and they're like, oh, tell me about your divorce. And you're like, oh, my ex-husband, he was such an asshole to me, and versus saying, so I, wasn't really great at setting boundaries, and I allowed myself to believe some things that aren't really true. And I'm so grateful for that experience because now right? That is like a 30-second thing. It's not, let me tell you the tale of my shitty past. Yeah. And I think that, I had this experience where someone shared like their first interaction with somebody online was like, let me tell you about my shitty past. And it was in the context of like why she hasn't dated in a long time. And right out of the gate, the guy was like, whoa, like that's a lot. He made up a lot of stories about him being unable to deal with that past, right? Because she was in the middle of it, not in the, like you said, in the hero's journey. She hadn't returned to the original world changed. And so, I think that's a really important thing. We are like just vibing today. I'm like, I can't believe this is a 30-minute episode. Okay. Let's just one more question.
Your Ignite Your Life thing, honestly, I bet that just got you,
it did.
In that zone for 3 days.
Oh my God. Yes. Okay. Let's do one. This is a fun one. Swag or lack thereof. You said in the notes, Clayton's hoodie blazer combo style. Let's talk, because it's so funny. Women make up so much stories about, we've talked about this before, about like a guy's image. And we actually, at Ignite Your Life, in our process, we have a stylist, like an image consultant who helps helps our clients like get their outside to match their new inside when they work with us. So what did you think of Clayton's Woody, oh my God, hoodie, and all the leather thing? I wasn't vibing with that. Tell me, what do you think about his swag?
He looks like he does look like somebody's like big brother is taking him shopping, and it's like, dude, you need to just throw clothes on him. He's like, okay, whether it fits or not, and he's put it on, and he's like trying to come up with his own come up with an avatar that's it's just not him, and it's just so odd. Like all the combos, the clothes he put together, and he loves the hoodie. The internet's hating the hoodie blazer combo. He keeps trying to make a thing. I don't know why too, because he can't be. I know he's a massive guy, so I know he's not freezing. It's awkward and kind of strange. And I asked that because I had a gal pal who was just like, obsessed on guys needing to marry a guy with swag.
That should not be your non-negotiables.
That was her non-negotiable, right? And this other guy, she's like, he's got swag. This is a little fun fact. Now that I think about it, this dude who was obsessed with her, loved her, he was dressed like shit at the time. He was super tall and skinny and lanky. He is one of the most stylish guys I know now. So interesting. Yeah, he was like a Clayton. He was just awkward. And I don't know if it's because he changed because of her or what inspired her, but now, yeah, she's proud and takes all these photos with him. And that's funny. I just remember her like, she's like, I can't date him. He doesn't have any swag. And look at the way he dresses.
Now he has swag.
Now he dresses like fire. Now I'm like, oh, like, what's he wearing? I'm going to go buy that outfit.
Oh my God. Well, maybe that was part of his journey. Okay. My last question is this. So there's this idea of, at the beginning, there's a woman that he thinks is the cat's meow, so to speak. And then he finds out some shit about her, and he asks her, hey, I heard this stuff about you. Like, what's going on? And she's like, oh, that's not true. And then he's like, ask it another way. And she's like, no, that's not true. And then he's like, well, what about that? And then she goes, okay, let me tell you the truth.
Got me, bitch.
You got me. And I think...
You worded exactly right.
Exactly. And I think that what he says is, and I think this is a really important thing, is that, and I always say this, like a high quality guy or a woman who like really is in that evolution of her highest self will tell the truth even when it's bad news on the first time. And I really think that without trust, it's really hard to have commitment. And so I applaud him at least for like, he sort of sent her home, even though he had given her a rose and like, thought she was amazing, although we all knew she wasn't amazing. But, and it's just a really important thing. Like, that's that vulnerability. Yeah. When you're right. Like I have this guy and I keep thinking that he's going to love me if I, do something. And yeah, of course he left the door open, and that was before I got here. And what I've learned, right? The hero's journey. And what I've learned is, and I'm really afraid to tell you this because I'm afraid, it's like, just, don't, when people are like, I don't want to play the game, then don't play the game, right? It's not a game. These are people's lives. I just finished this great book called The Days of Aphrodite, which is neither here nor there, but there's a line in there where she's sitting in a coffee shop and she's looking at all these people, and she was like, these are all humans, right? Like these are all humans with cells and lives and a mama that birthed them, and like, right? Like these are all humans here, right? And it's like, be aware of the humanity of those that you are experiencing in the dating process, the humanity of the people that you're working with, that are challenging for you, whatever it is. And I think that is really, in the end, we all just want to connect, and we want trust, and we want to feel like we can trust. And so, avoiding the truths are going to get you further away from where you want to go.
Yeah. And I think what happened is that, she wasn't vulnerable. She needed a particular outcome, right?
Yeah.
And she was even bragging earlier. Is like, I have a rose. I cannot get sent home. So she already had her outcome determined in her mind. And there was nothing, that was going to steer that versus, and shit. I mean, Marni, you could be married and you can still change your mind. A rose isn't a guarantee, right?
Yeah.
People change their mind all the time, and because of that, and I think she did. It was that's what the issue was. Unlike, I know a lot of people are, or at least on the internet, are like, oh my God, that's such bullshit. I hate seeing this happen. She was slut shaming her. There they go again.
Oh my
guys to have
God! What?
Yep.
But that's not what he was mad about.
Exactly. But it's so easy though, right? For us to tell ourselves, convince ourselves. Otherwise, it's all, it's about him. It's about guys being allowed to sleep with whoever they want to.
That makes me so mad because really what she said, and I think the most vulnerable thing about that whole conversation was, and I don't even know if she said it, but I think she did. She said, there was a guy who I really like, and I finally realized that he is never going to be the one for me.
Yep.
And that's really, so she's not just sleeping with him. Like, who cares if she's just friends with benefits? That's not what it was. It was her emotionally unavailable guy, her crumbs guy,
Yeah.
Right. And she over and over again, she's trying to say, oh, okay, well, I'll sleep, like I'll come hang out on Netflix and chill with you. Right. Like her dignity is the one that's really being trashed around. Right. And she's doing it to herself. And she's owning it for a millisecond, one phrase that comes out of her mouth. And that is what it was. And so that's what she's realized, but it was lost because she wasn't truthful. And that's really the thing is like, just say it. Like, yeah, you know what? There's a guy that I'm still talking to because, I'm afraid if this didn't work out, and this is a pattern I'm trying to break. And I realized that, and she did say it, I realized that's like, he's not the guy for me. And that's something I want to change. So, yeah. So fuck the internet. Like, it's like, they're just trying to find the burning building, right? And like that's the headline, but I don't really think that's what the situation was. I think that the reason he didn't give her the rose is because he felt like she wasn't honest, and I just don't think you can overcome that when you're dishonest. There's not enough goodwill and credit, and there's all these other women that he's interested in. So
and I think women are just so incredibly skilled at communicating, reading subtext. And I could just see Clayton's mind. He was like, okay, back up. Let me ask it this way. Nope, that's not it. That's the way. And fuck, poor guy, you could tell his brain was just tired. He was like, oh no. I just foresee, especially in the early relationship, right? You're like, I don't want to have to do this every time. There's no reason to tell wife lies, or not even, or just to go around the truth. And it's so much more powerful and sexier just to own it early on. And that would just as he deserves to know, you deserve to know how he's going to handle your honesty and your past, because we all do have a past. And so it would have been in her best interest to be straightforward and forthcoming, as well as playing that detective game where he finally has to weave it out, because that's something so scary to guys. Like he said eventually, when he said, hey, he's like, I need to know that I can trust these ladies. And he gave her a chance to be trusted, and she didn't rise to the occasion. Instead, she made him put on the detective hat, which guys don't want to do.
No, it's too much work, especially at the beginning. Fuck that.
It's only gonna get worse.
Yeah, I don't even. What was her name? Cassidy. Cassidy.
Yeah. It's good TV though.
It was good. So we need to end for now, but Shanae, like she's just playing to win the game, which I've like. They've never been the producers are really like clever in getting her to just come out and say it, because she is gonna get her ass kicked when this is all over. But that being said, last thing I want to say from the show was that when you have an agenda, and this came up on the man panel, so we'll wrap it up this way. When you have an agenda, like I want to win, I want to find out if he's rich, I want to find out if he has a big 401k, I want to find out, and someone did ask this on the man panel, like, because it was like, how can you be confident on a first or second date, or even right out of the gate, like, what are you looking for, right? Is very different than sitting on a date and being like, oh, well, what kind of car do you drive? How long have you been in that job? Right? And it's inserting an agenda, like, and so our friend Shanae is like, she just wants to win. She just wants to be picked. I don't know whether that means she just wants to win so she can win money or followers, or I don't think she really likes him at all or cares about him. But the bottom line is, the last lesson for today is, really think about what's the difference of the energy of like, hey, like I'm in a place where I'm looking for a long-term committed marriage or relationship. What about you? Versus like, so what do you do?
Yeah.
Right. So don't insert your agenda to try and win the game of love. So Christopher, you're going to be out, right? So I have found a substitute man, ladies. So join us next week to find out who that surprise will be, and we will always know, Chris, that whoever it is, they will never compare it to you, because you are the prime.
Okay. You can have like a friends with benefits host buddy.
Exactly.
You're all mine.
Exactly. Ladies, whatever you do, Learn the difference between vulnerability and oversharing. So remember, when you're doing that, life check yourself. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Hey, thanks for tuning into today's show. So if being in an intimate relationship in which you feel 100% seen, heard, and accepted by a high caliber man is a priority for you right now, and you're interested in seeing if you're a fit for working with me and my team at Dating with Dignity, here's what I want you to do. Just head over to DWD VIP, that's D as in dating, W, D as in dating, VIP.com, and book a call to speak with my team. We'll get on the phone with you for about 60 minutes, and you'll get crystal clear on what's stopping you from finding true love right now. We'll also take a look at what you want to create, what you want your whole life to look like when you're able to finally be fully expressed as a woman in a healthy relationship with an incredible guy. And if we can help you get from where you are right now to where you want to be, we will show you the fastest path possible that makes sense for you to do that. We help smart, successful women all over the world solve this one missing piece in their life so they can finally have it all. So to see if we can help you do the same thing, head over to DWDVIP.com. I'm Marni Batista, and let's talk soon.